What's up, otakus? It's your tour guide here, and we have a very special guest today, Roger Metarog. One of the just pronounced community members on YouTube with a lot of just passion and knowledge about comic books. And he graciously has made time to come on my channel and discuss comic book cleaning and pressing. So, Roger, I'm just going to make you big here.
All righty.
Why isn't it letting me do that?
There we go. There we go.
Hang on.
If I didn't break the lens, then it's fine,
Are you able to maybe do it? I don't know why I can't.
No, I don't have that option, I'm afraid.
Let's see here.
But, oh, there I am. You can make, not me the whole thing, though, right? I mean, there you go.
I think this is our best option right now. Okay.
Yeah. I don't like to be bigger than the next person over, Well, thank you, Taku. I mean, honestly, when you contacted me, I was very honored, is the way I took it, right? Because, I'm sure we've talked before on other shows on Nauman, on Meet the Collector and so forth. And that comics are a personal thing. I mean, they just are, right? I mean, and so I know I wouldn't trust my comics to just anybody. So the fact that you're trusting a really, really nice and, iconic cover like this to me, I'm very honored, and I will take care of it, to the best of my abilities.
Yes. So let's talk to that process a little bit. So I reached out to you because I got this book here. Right. Superman 252, Neil Adams. It's a square bound book, 100 pages. This one has a lot of issues, and we'll go over that as we look over it. And that kind of got us talking about, pressing and cleaning. Mm-hmm. Can you talk to your experience? So I know you just got into doing this. Right. Can you talk to how you got into it and what you've learned initially?
Sure. Well, I've been manipulating comics for decades. Let's maybe put it that way, first of all. But not pressing, not with a heat press, right? I mean, I've been cleaning. I've taken, disassembled comics, cleaned staples. Sometimes replaced pages because they were missing Marvel value stamps, things like that. Okay. So I've been doing that for decades. And then most of the pressing that I used to do was probably just pressure, like use weights and glass or a very sheer surface, and hope and pray that takes away a little bit of a spine roll, but it generally does not take away divots or, creases, because you need a lot more. You need heat, you need humidity, heat to manipulate the malleability, of the paper, because it has a memory. The paper has a memory, for lack of a better term. And the only way to revert that back is to change the dynamic of the paper. And you have to do that through humidity, and then press, and then pressure. Those are the three components that will change the different curvatures or the different way that the paper lies, so that it can go back to its more original form. So I've been doing that for a long time, but pressing itself, I've only been doing it about 6 months. Hey, K-Pop, since Night Tiger, he had 2 presses, and he lives about a couple hours down the road from me. Well, more than down the road, but he lives in Ocala. And he said he didn't want this other press. It's a big, I showed you before. It's a big, heavy duty industrial. This thing is it's like a dinosaur. It's old, but boy, this thing is, heavy. I mean, I don't think I can lift it by myself. Let me put it that way. Actually, I did lift it, but through great effort. And then, so the past 6 months, I've been watching videos, been talking to Mike. I've been looking at Jerry the Jitterbug, collecting Chaos James, other people, and trial and error. And so far, I've had a pretty good success rate, over 98%, I'd say. The first couple ones, that was a learning process. But I used, kind of messed up old comics, just to sort of, because I knew I didn't know what I was doing at that point. But the past few months, I've had really good results. I sort of know, thresholds of heat and pressure and time and all that, depending on what kind of comic it is. And I've had just a blast. I mean, an absolute blast doing this. So, when you asked me to do this, I was like, yeah, I love challenges like this. So yeah, I'm all in.
And so you've had some time with the pressing. How confident are you in terms? Because I've seen, you sent me a book that you cleaned and pressed,
right?
And that thing looked high grade. I don't know what the issues were previously, but it
was
looked
pretty bad.
I would imagine, right?
It looked like a wave. It was like this.
Well, it's completely perfect now. Yeah.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. I did that months ago. If I would have done that sooner, I've learned every month. I learn a little bit more. If I would have done that sooner, I would have even gotten that, flatter and glossier. But it's not too bad.
Yeah. What have you learned that you think people who are thinking about getting into pressing and cleaning, and before they invest all the money to do it, what are some considerations or things that you would advise before doing that?
Well, as far as the press goes, I mean, I can't speak so much to that. I mean, because I was given my press, I didn't research or anything like that. But from what I've gleaned from others in the video, make sure that you get a high quality press, not something, that's kind of on the cheap side, because you're putting something under a pretty good amount of pressure. So if the hinges or if the handle or something like that breaks, or if the temperature regulation is not steady, you could damage the book, or the press would be inoperable after a while. But again, I can't really speak too much for that. I mean, there are many videos out there, where you're talking about what kind of press to get. And mine's not even digital. Remember, mine is an old school. Mine has the dial that goes up to like 400 degrees. So you have to be careful about the moderation of that temperature. But I do have a digital thermometer that I check to make sure that that is accurate, and it is, right? So make sure that your press is appropriate. Hey, Caroline, how you doing? And again, don't take my word for it. Do your research and get a press that has steady temperature, that is high quality, and will last you a while. Because in order for you to get your money back, you're going to have to press hundreds and hundreds of comics. If you're into the whole value of the comic thing. I only do it for my own purposes, for presentation purposes. I don't send books in for grading or anything like that, but I do like them to be presentable. So that would be my first level of advice, right? Is get a high quality press, and then don't just do it like I was telling you. Have a bunch of messed up comics and experiment, because even though they tell you put it this temperature, you have to put some kind of parchment paper or some kind of barrier, for the between the comic and the press, or else you don't want it to heat right on the comic, never, right? Because it'll actually lift the color right off of it. You have to put some barriers there. And the one thing that I learned from Mike Night Tiger is when you press a comic, and it usually half hour, depending on the comic. Some you can do 25 minutes, some up to 40. And again, there's more involved, which I don't want to really get to explain. It's all technical stuff. But the one thing you do want to know is that when you press a comic, if you don't have a cold press, where you can leave it under pressure for 24 hours, leave it in that press the heat press for, at least 20 to 24 hours, because otherwise it will revert slowly to more of its previous state. You have to, after you actually change the state of the paper, you have to keep it under pressure so that it remains in that state until it's permanently in that state. And that usually takes about a day.
So I just want to mention in the chat, if you guys have questions that you want to ask Roger regarding the process and getting into this, please put them in chat. We'll put them up and give Roger a chance to.
And let me state this, Otaku, so there's no misunderstanding. I am not a professional presser, cleaner. I'm only doing this for friends and for myself. Okay, I'm not going to take any money for what I'm doing or anything like that. Okay.
Yeah.
I take this as a challenge, and because I want to see your comics, in a better condition, something that you like something like that. You showed me that Lois Lane. If I can improve it, why not, right? I mean, and not damage it, obviously. But I'm not a professional. Don't follow my advice to the T. I do things that work for me. That doesn't mean that it'll necessarily work for you. All right. There are many professional pressers out there that know a lot more about this than I do. But my particular press, I've got it geared. I've just honed it into so I know how it reacts. And it's taken me a little while to figure that out.
So, Lady Fantastic,
you don't want a mustache like mine, Caroline. Trust me.
Did you shave yours?
I did, because I was at my mother's house in Miami, and she doesn't want me to look, older with the gray hair and the mustache. So she asked me to shave it off.
What's up, Matt?
So you know how moms are. Hey, Matt, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, you're too much, Matt. You're too much.
So let's focus on just the sort of the base. You mentioned you wanted something over the book. So what are some of the base materials along with the press?
Right.
What are some of the additional materials you would need to just get started without going? I mean, you could obviously go really deep and get a lot of materials, but for just someone just starting out and building upon it, and they wanted to just do it this weekend, like just go to the store, pick up some materials and do it this weekend. What are some things you would recommend to get them started?
I would recommend that you get parchment paper, something that can take heat without it going brittle. All right. So parchment paper is a must, and you probably want some very high quality backing boards that are, in other words, they would be one size bigger than the comic. So if you're putting a Bronze Age comic, you put a Silver Age backing board, Silver Age, put a Golden Age, put a Super, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Right.
And are those backing boards sold like through Amazon? Where would you maybe go to get those?
Yeah, either your local comic shop, or you can go to eBay, on Amazon, things like that. Now you can use used ones, right? You can use used ones. Just make sure that there's nothing on there. That make sure that there's no images on there, that there's no debris on there. It has to be perfectly clean and flat, because that will make an impression into the comic otherwise. Okay, so you have to make sure that is everything you put in the press has to be absolutely pristine, just clean, nothing on it. If there's even a hair, believe it or not, will make an impression of that comic if it's thick enough. So parchment paper, backing board. Also, I use a thick gauge typing paper as the barrier between the parchment and the comic. And the backing boards are to space the inside of the comic, because if it's saddle stitch and it has staples, you would crush the staple into the comic. You don't want that. So a thick backing board inside the comic and inside the both covers will prevent that, because that will take the stress off of the staples. Hey, Kenneth. Hey, Nick.
So we're putting we're putting a backing board on the inside of the front cover, inside the back, just outside of the back cover, and then in the where the staples.
So 3 backing boards per comic. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, square bounds are different. You don't want to put a backing board in the middle of the square bound comic, because the staples there are actually they're actually by the cover, right? So you don't want to bulge out the comic. You just want to cover the staples on the front cover and the back cover. And depending on the situation, you may not even need a backing board if you have a thick enough paper and you have that parchment paper and another one on top, right? You got to kind of see what condition the comic is in. If it's even a little bit a kilter, or if the spine is, has the tears, you have to be very careful, because if you put a backing board there that's too thick, and there's already a spine split, it could actually split it more. So you have to make sure your spacer is in between. The spacer is just a roll I put in the middle. That's the height of the comic, so that when you press it, it doesn't go further down and squish the spine of a square bound comic.
Okay. Again, I just want to remind the chat, if you have any questions for Roger, just put it up in the chat, and we'll try to address those as we go along. So let's get to the books. Now, as you know, this whole thing began with a discussion on a book I got, and I'm just going to shift over to and add my camera here to the stream. All right. So I'm going to try my best to go over.
You want to make that maybe big and us smaller if you can?
Yeah, like I was trying to do that. Let's see if this will work.
Or just put that up. You don't even have to put us up.
That's true.
I think they know what we look like by now.
Let's see if we can do that.
Hey, fanboy. I didn't see you there. Welcome.
There we go.
There we go.
All right, here we go.
All
right, so yeah.
Beautiful.
So I got this book, and what kind of bugged me after I got this was there was a better grade one that came up for $25 that had me kind of just kind of like, oh, why am I seeing this now? But I love this copy, and I know it's going to there's a lot of room for improvement on this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll just kind of go over what I think the issues are, and then you can speak to, I guess, what your plan or approach would be.
Okay.
So there is a little bit of foxing here on the edges.
Yeah.
And really the major issue is it's just there's this like rippling throughout the book. So I'll give you if you look at the top there, you can kind of get an impression.
Yeah, I can tell.
Yeah. And again, overall, I think that's the part that I think would improve the book. There obviously, bindery issues here. They're just splitting. That's not something we can necessarily improve. There are some color breaking creases like right there in the corner there.
Yeah.
But yeah, just get your thoughts on that.
Okay, couple things. Looks like it has good color and gloss off, just from what I can see there. So that's a plus, because you can't really replace gloss, right?
Yes.
So, but it looks to me, foxing is a phenomenon that happens between humidity and the elements that are inherent in pulp, right? Yeah. So it looks to me like it was stored in a high humidity environment, and that is what occurred. That's those spots that you see there. Those look like classical foxing to me. Without an aqueous baths and disassembling the spine from that and using some kind of agent to reverse that, that's not going to come out by dry cleaning.
Right. And that would be too tedious of a process to really.
No, I mean, it could be done. I mean, you'd have to loosen the spine from the glue, and then you'd have to flatten out the cover, and then you'd have to give it an aqueous bath with certain chemicals. You don't want to use something that will bleach the cover too much because you'll get color loss. But you can use certain chemicals, baking soda, etc., that will possibly, if not get rid of it, it will lessen it somewhat, right? Now, the good thing about foxing, though, is that it doesn't really affect the integrity of the paper that much. So I can press those parts without worrying that it will get brittle or it will chip or anything like that. That's the good news.
So here's an area that I know would stand for improvement. There's just a deep impression there, as you can see.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Nothing
So
color breaking. Yep.
Yeah, that there, I probably will have to do some localized pressing there with an iron, so that I can, because that looks a little bit too deep. For thing is that 100 pager, the I don't know if you want to talk about the challenges now, but the 100 pager, since it's so thick, right, it resists a lot of pressing without crunching the spine, and especially that one that's right up against the spine. That is going to be a bit difficult without a lot of pressure and longer heat. So I'm going to probably do some localized ironing on that, and they have to be very careful about that in that area, because if you rip that area, then that's going to be an additional defect.
Okay.
But I definitely see a lot of waviness. Looks like a watermark there.
Yeah.
That's a water stain, correct?
It looks like a water stain, yes, but I imagine it's, again, I think it has probably just related to humidity and foxing. So yeah, not that anything was like spilled onto this, but just.
Can I see the inside of that cover, Utaku?
Sure.
Right there in that spot there. Yeah. Yeah, this book was in a lot of humidity for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, here's the interior color.
Yeah, because the transfer to the interior tells me that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I'll see what I can do about those interior pages too. But yeah, that's a shame, because if we could lessen that would make this a lot more presentable on that back part.
Okay. Well, let's move on. So that is one book that we are sending for sure.
Right. And it will be improved, at least structurally be improved. I can pretty much guarantee you that much.
All right. Now everybody probably has something similar in their collection, just a bunch of older books that need TLC, but they haven't, again, for whatever reasons, if you're not into this kind of like process of improving the presentation of the books, they're just sitting in your collection, right? And you think to yourself, oh, I'll get to cleaning and pressing these someday, or sending them into CGC someday, right?
Well, not CGC for me, but yeah, I understand. Yeah.
Right. So I just picked out a few of those books. Essentially, these are older books.
Right.
These all have issues. They're not by any means like, they're all sort of lower grade books, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, like, those are the books that need the most, TLC or attention, right? The older ones and the ones that are lower grade. So that's what we have here. Here is King Size Fantastic Four. It's number 7. It's Jack Kirby cover. Great book.
Yeah, nice looking cover, really.
And again, this is also a square bound book. It's got that bindery issue there in the, so nothing we can do about that. I think this might have been pressed already, because if you look at it just from this like a surface standpoint, it's already flat. So I don't know if this would necessarily be ideal for doing anything too. I guess maybe you could address some of the, because it does look kind of dirty in some of the white areas. I guess you try to address that, but that's
yeah. It does, and it has a nice little date stamp. That's cool.
That is cool.
Yeah, I mean, it can be improved. I see a lot of creasing up there. I can probably clean up the title area a little bit. But really, it's not that bad, Otaku.
Yeah.
It's not
I was thinking
bad.
this is probably something that wouldn't see too much of an improvement, so I wasn't going to probably select this one.
I mean, anything can be a little bit improved, but that would not really even go up a grade, I don't think.
Right. Okay.
Oh, Lady Fantastic says you can send it to her, by the way, and she'll take care of
it. Oh, really?
She's a big Kirby fan, so
It is a nice book. I love that book.
It is.
All right. This one would, I think, benefit, and I'm hoping I may just take this one out as well. But basically, it has these like page-long creases up and down the book.
Yeah, that middle one looks like a subscription crease. They used to curl them up and put them in these brown paper wrappers, and that would often happen, unfortunately.
Right.
But the rest has been just attrition.
Yeah. So, for example, like this area, it looks really bad, but I think again with a good press, that could all press out and really
that will improve. Yeah,
look smooth, right?
Yeah. Naman has asked me, have I ever tried to clean and press a treasury? No, I haven't, because all my treasuries are, believe it or not, which is weird for me, in pretty good condition. But my press, I think, will fit a treasury, a full-size treasury. So I'm going to try it someday. Yeah.
So the hope here with this book, I'm just going to kind of show it from afar, is to get that, again, these creases have created this sort of bumpy, it's raised the paper so you can actually feel them. And it's to hopefully get all that flat.
Yeah, that's been folded for a while, and it creates almost like when an earthquake and the ground sort of splits up, it creates that kind of phenomenon. If you fold it over and then you fold it back, it creates that lifting effect. It's microscopic, but you can feel it. Yeah.
Right. So what would you say in terms of addressing that? Would that be something that could be improved?
Yes, that's a good candidate. What will happen there, Otaku, is it may not reduce the visibility of those really raised creases, but it will smooth them out so that, and it may reduce them a little bit because when you humidify the paper and you put it under heat and pressure, it will sort of go back a little bit to its previous form.
It's a wrinkle and you're ironing it out essentially.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
Or actually, you're ironing it in hopefully back into its original form as much as possible. That dirt there, that should be able to come out if that's even if that's rubbed up against another, like another cover that had darker elements. That should come out to a good degree. I have various tools for that, including some vinyl erasers, absorbine actually, and and a few other tricks that might help with that.
Here's another one where the crease is so deep, there's like dirt entrenched in there, and it almost looks like a line. And I know, again, just based off what we're talking about, that could probably really be improved.
Yeah, that's going to be a bit of a challenge, because when it's so wrinkly like that, you have to be very, very light pressure, because it'll rip. that
Yeah.
cover. Yeah. So I may clean that. Might mean a double pressing. I may need to lightly clean it with the Absorine and a very, very loosey-goosey eraser. Get all the other elements taken care of, press it, and then go back, and then with a little harder eraser head, go through that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Bill, how you doing, buddy?
What's up, Bill? And I just love this cover. So again, any
Iconic.
improvement,
Totally.
any improvement to this book would just be such a
how is the spine on that?
The spine is really nice, you know, like there's nothing that would indicate it's coming off or anything.
Okay, the staples are tight.
Yeah, for the most part.
Good.
And so, yeah, again, like, you know, the corners are decent for, you know, the age of this book. So again, if we could just improve that, the creases, again, on a white cover, obviously we're not going to get anything color breaking out, but there's a lot of things in the white that could potentially be improved.
Anything on the back cover that's of note, or
the back cover actually looks a lot. I mean, there's creasing throughout, you know, because as you said, this was a book that was just, I think, like a subscription crease or folded. But for the most part, I think it's also a white cover. So, you know, I think in terms of like cleaning and again, just evening out the roughness there, it would stand to improve, just like the front.
Okay. By the way, here's another thing I should have mentioned. When you're cleaning a comic book, no matter what kind of cleaning, dry cleaning, always put something underneath the cover. Don't try to clean on the cover with the bottom pages raw, because it will slide like you wouldn't believe.
Ooh,
and you can't put a lot of pressure. So you put a backing board or very thick paper under there, and you always put pressure down, you know, when you're doing erasing or even the Absorine. Always put pressure in the area that you're working on, because with creases like that, I'm so afraid that will just separate. You have to be have to give it a light touch for sure.
Yeah, maybe could you expand on that in terms of if you're using like a dry eraser, what's the balance between applying pressure and maintaining the gloss of the book so that you're not eroding away that?
I always start with the softest eraser that I have. Okay. And again, it's sort of you have to sort of think of it as a cost benefit analysis, right? I mean, a lot of things can come out if you really, you know, nail it. I mean, if you really just tear down on it, you can maybe get it out, but they're going to be severe color loss, or not color loss, because you're going to do it on the color part, but gloss of the cover. You know, you can't tell just by a quick look, but if you look on it under the right light, you'll see that some of it will reflect light some, and the other part will be more matte, right? So I always start with the softest eraser I can, see if I can get it with that. If it's really bad, I will go to a little harder eraser, right? But I don't go all the way to just, you know, one of those art erasers, because those things are just rough on the covers. And if it's just a light bit of dirt, I'd rather have that than risk ripping, you know, or loss of gloss to the point where it's matte.
Yeah, you know, for me, like, if a book kind of cleans up good, it's fine, but I would prefer to have dirt over like gloss loss. So
me too.
Sometimes if it requires just not touching the book because the gloss is gonna, you know, been compromised already. So sometimes I think it's better in that sense to just leave it alone.
Yeah. I mean, again, you try with the softer stuff and the Absorine, and then depending on if it is working, you might try, you know, again, I have 3 or 4 steps of erasers, but that fourth one I've noticed really does a number on the gloss. So on the back cover, sometimes I will go a little bit harsher, because it doesn't affect the presentability as much, but that's my personal opinion. Like something like your comic, I wouldn't go that until I talk to you, for example, and that's just the way that I function. I only do it for my comics, but for yours, you make the decision.
Yeah, I mean, I would go with a dry eraser only if you really felt like, oh, we can improve this and maintain the gloss.
Right.
So I'll let you also reserve that judgment.
Looks like you've got some chipping down there.
Right. Okay. So we've got Hulk 271. This is sort of a hot book right now. First appearance of Rocket Raccoon
in comics. Yeah.
In comics.
Yeah.
And we've got, this is a low grade book. I'll just kind of go over the issues. There's a lot of just dinge, creasing, got chipping here on the bottom, some on the side as well. We've got a tape.
Oh boy.
So there's a tear in the book that's been taped up, and I would rather not touch that. What does tape do under a press? Does it cause any issues?
Yeah, it kind of does, but is that on the outside of the cover?
It's on the outside, yes.
Yeah. I can put something in that area so that it doesn't have enough, it doesn't transfer more heat. But if that's like cellophane tape or Scotch tape, it could bubble, and the glue could escape under it and make parts of it gooey.
Yeah.
So, man, that's a shame.
Would you advise not doing anything with that in terms of pressing?
Send it on. I'll take a look at it, and if it's safe, I can press the rest of the areas. And I do have a way of, I can put like a lot of parchment in that area, straight on it, and it, and I'll put it on lower heat.
Yeah.
No, I cannot press out chipping.
Yeah.
That's reconstruction of the cover at that point.
Yeah. So, this is a book that's.
Look at Bill. If you cut out the tape area, it should be fine for pressing. Yeah.
No, Bill, I don't want to do that to my book.
I mean, talk about the cure being worse than the disease. Holy smokes.
So these are the areas where I thought, like, for example, that area right there, you can see that it's a crease, but it's in the white area. So that's something that it can improve.
That's fine.
Up at the top here as well, in the white areas, you see there's just some.
That's fine.
Yeah. But I'm just wondering, when I look at this book with the chipping and everything, I put this grade at about, I would say in a 2, right?
Yeah, I mean, it has tape, so it really can't be more than 2, and it has a rip there on the cover.
Right.
Probably.
Would this even be worth the effort? Because it's going to stay a 2 no matter how much work you do on it. I guess you could be satisfied with just having the white areas be a little cleaner, or just, again, being smooth.
It can be improved. Areas. It can be improved, not in grade, but in presentability. Yeah.
Okay, that's something to consider.
Yeah, something to consider. That tape is a shame, because if it didn't have that tape, if it just had the rip, right?
Yeah.
We could. I could clamp it there. I could clean around it, and then press it. And then, if you wanted to, we can put some document tape on the inside of the cover, and it wouldn't be visible from the outside.
Yeah.
But you can remove that tape. By the way, I mean, I can put the heat gun on it and try to remove it. But when there's a rip like that,
Rocket's saying no.
Yeah, right. When there's a rip like that, I'm like, it's dicey. It's dicey.
All right, here's one I got recently.
Oh, that's a great story. Love that story.
Yeah.
Dr. Doom and Iron Man and the medieval times with Arthur. Yeah.
And it's just a beautiful book.
It is.
The black cover. the two, the two
confrontation cover. Yeah, I love it.
So this is something that has a lot of sort of dirt and grime here in the corners, you can see, and along the white parts of the spine. I think, yeah, this is something maybe you could, because it's the spine area, in terms of the gloss, you're not as concerned. You could probably do some erasing there to make that look better.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a couple things that I could use on the spine. If it's not ragged, that it would help and lighten that quite a bit. Yeah.
Right. But for the most part, there's nothing, I think, in terms of the press, it could, I mean, they're just a little, edge areas, and maybe that corner there, because of the creases, that's visibly, that's still going to be there, but at least it would kind of smooth out some of the,
and it'll even out it'll even out the book and make it a little flatter too. I see it's a little bit off there. There's like a little bit of a bulge there. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, not too bad. I mean, that corner there is a little gnarly, but that shouldn't be a problem as far as that. I'll have to just I'll have to use a little bit of little tack ironing on there to make sure that's down.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it doesn't look like be a problem.
I'm almost, just, this is one I wouldn't want to send in, just because it looks good as it is. I mean, obviously we could clean it up a little bit, but again, is it worth doing all that? I think right now, as is, it presents pretty good. I don't know if we can do any more to really improve what.
I mean, it's not. It might, like if for you grade guys, it might kick it up half a grade or so if you clean up that spine and you flatten it some. But that's about as much as you can, because all the creasing on the spine there and those, right there, that's going to keep it down to a mid-grade.
Right. Right. Yeah, this is I would say, just if we could get it to mid-grade, that'd be great. But I don't know if all doing any kind of work would achieve that. This one, I'm not going to send it. It's pretty. It looks pretty. So as you know, I got this already in an 8.5.
Yep.
So this is my second copy, and this one, it looks pretty good as well. So I don't think pressing and doing much to it would improve it. So I'm just gonna keep that off the list.
All right.
This one also. It's just the spine is really just got a lot of issues, and I haven't opened this book up. I mean, the staples seem to have the cover in place, but I would imagine it's just barely hanging on. So this is another one I would be hesitant to send in, because I don't know if necessarily pressing it would do anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it would help it, but if the staples are it looks like they're pretty tenuous there.
Yeah.
You have to be careful, because any kind of, even with spacing and all that, any kind of pressure there would possibly pop the staple. And I could, if that happens, it depends how it depends how it occurs, but I can remove the staple and replace it with, if you can curve the cover onto it. Sometimes it just leaves a little chad, and you can curve the staple onto that, and it'll go back on there if you handle it very gingerly. But that's dicey there. Yeah.
I'm apt to agree with Comic Mag Musings that this is something probably not worth, just because it looks great. I just like how it looks already.
Right.
The other parts of the book are really, really, really nice. So
a comic like that, if I was to press it, I would put very light pressure and higher heat.
Okay.
So that, you know, it would, and less time too. So when you humidify it, you don't want to put too much pressure on those staples. I would definitely just want to have it so that the heat and the actual flatness of the press would be doing most of it, not so much the pressure.
Okay.
But it's no guarantee. I mean, that will help the odds, but there's no guarantee that would not pop.
Right. Okay. So I think right now I'm just going to kind of bring back the ones that I think would benefit, or the candidates here, and then I'll let you.
Okay, definitely the 100 pager.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely the Superman with Lois Lane.
Gotcha.
Yep. That Hulk with Rocket. I think we can work with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can work with that.
Yeah, again, it's so low grade. I mean, if you were to rip the book, honestly, it wouldn't bug me that much.
I'm not concerned about ripping per se.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about the glue migrating to a little bit more of the comp. But I think I can manage that with lower heat and a little bit of an extra shielding on that area.
Okay, perfect. We'll add this to the list. And
one more.
Yep.
One more. Take your pick. Well, I get, you said that Fantastic Four is pretty flat, right?
It's pretty flat, which leads me to believe it has been pressed, and it's still, they couldn't resolve some of the other issues.
They couldn't make it any
better.
But
this one has not been pressed.
Okay.
And again, I think in terms of getting this edge spine cleaner from just some of the erasing techniques, I think that's something that could be improved.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think this would be good.
Yeah, I agree. I think we're in agreement. Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna restore us to our. So I'm going to get these books out to you right away. I'm probably going to mail them over the weekend, and you should have them.
Great.
Are you going to catalog the process? What's your thinking in terms of?
I don't really have a camera set up where I can catalog the process per se. I'll take pictures before. I'll take really nice pictures before and then after, and maybe put it on my Instagram if you want.
Yeah. Feel free to do. I'm going to do the before as well. So feel free to do it on your end, and I'll do it on my end when I get the books back.
And then when you get the books back, we'll do a post pressing conference here and see what happens. But I think we can definitely improve them. They'll be more presentable. They'll be a bit cleaner. I mean, it's to a certain degree, of course, but I think the 100-pager, definitely you're going to see some really good improvements with those non-color breaking divots and creases. And the one with Lois Lane, I think that one can be improved greatly. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. Well, Roger, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I hope everybody, learned something from this conversation. OTG, for my part,
really,
I'm sure he won't do that.
Really, Bill. Really, Bill.
But again, I know you are so passionate about these books. I know you will approach this like they're your own books, and I don't feel like there's anybody I can entrust these books to more than I can, or a better person than you for this job. So again, thank you for just joining me today and agreeing to take this on. Sure. And I'm looking forward to again the results.
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is fun. I mean, I'm like really like I'm like licking my chops, waiting to get those suckers. because I love the challenge, you know, and it just, I don't know, it's maybe I'm wired strangely or whatever, right? But, you know, to me, you know, a comic, like, you know, it needs to have its days that shine, you know. It doesn't have to be a big key, or, you know, even if it's like a personal comic you had from way back when or something, you know, that, you know, you and your mom perhaps, or you and a relative had, you know, in common. Those are the kind of things I love, you know, about this community, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there are better people that, let me tell you that there are many better people that know more than I do, a lot more about, you know, the conservation process. But, you know, I will make every effort to make them as good as possible, you know, with the tools available to me. And that's the only guarantee I give you.
Yeah. And again, whatever issues come about, I fully entrust you, and everything's good. So just don't worry about any repercussions or anything. Just approach it and do the best you can, and hopefully we get good results.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you that they will definitely be better. You know, they'll definitely get better. I said other people may get them to another level, but I'll use it with a level that I'm comfortable with, without, you know, damaging, without risking things like, you know, like I said, disassembling comics. I do that for my comics. I don't do that for other people. Because it, you know, when you disassemble a comic, there's always the risk, you know, of you missing the staple hole, or, you know, somewhere in the transfer of the cover or the pages, things happening. But if it's just cleaning with the techniques that I've proven work, and pressing with the methods that I've used that I know work, I'm very confident these will go back to you in a better state than they came.
Great to hear. Great to hear. I guess I have one last question. In terms of your pressing and your collection, what's the book that you've worked on that, and maybe you could speak to the improvements, either from a grade standpoint, in your opinion, or just the results from working on the book? Oh, this happened. We saw this improve. Is there a specific book that you can share with the community members that in the course of this process you really had a good effect in your collection?
Yeah, let me show you a little bit here. I got a couple. Okay, I got a couple here. Now, first of all, let me just state that these were absolute wrecks when I got them. Okay. And I'm a cheapskate collector. You know this, we'll talk. You meet the collector, you remember that, right? So I don't pay a lot of money for comics. It's anathema to me, right? So so when I saw these, I bought these after I got the press, knowing that I could improve them to the state where I would be happy. Okay. But these were absolute wrecks, and I'll show you what they are. First one is this one here.
Oh yeah, I remember this one. Yeah.
Right? ASM 121.
Yep,
right?
I remember this one.
And the thing with this one here is totally complete. Absolutely complete. There's nothing, no pop staples, nothing missing, nothing like that. However, it was a creased and wavy mess. Okay? I mean, you can see, it's hard to tell, but you can see little creases. I'll show you the biggest one right here on Spider-Man's thigh.
Mm-hmm.
There?
Yeah, and you can barely see it now.
Well, that thing was, like I told you, like it was very apparent, but when you press it, it kind of merged the color a little bit into that gap. Okay.
Nice.
So it wasn't too bad. But this corner here was totally crunched. Okay. It was a big crunch, and I got most of that out. It's still leaning a little bit, so I'll probably have to press this again at some point. All right. And the spine here was rolled so that it's still, you see it looks rolled there, but that's actually the way it was coming out of the printer. But Aunt May was like another almost 10 millimeters this way.
Wow.
Okay? So I had to rewrap the thing. I had to first press it flat, then wrap it, back in, and then press it this way. All right. So this is probably a 2.5 maybe, but it was like a 1 when I got it. It was like just a rag,
That's that's like, that's a grail for me in terms of like books I want. Yeah. Beautiful book.
Yeah. I mean, I said I got it like dirt cheap because,
Yeah. Can you share what you paid for it?
I think it was like $30, 35.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, it was dirt cheap, but trust me, that thing was an eyesore and a half, All right. This one is one I'm very proud of here. Okay. Yeah. ASM 122.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Nice.
So this one here, the thing was that, okay, you see that little star there? Right. So, they were selling it. They didn't mention it was a Mark Jewelers or whatever. And that you thought that was a wreck. This spine here. Gosh, I don't know if I can get that on camera, but that spine there was just a mess. I mean, it was the staples were barely hanging on. And I'm saying, when I say barely, I mean by like a couple millimeters of the cover were on the staple. So I disassembled it. I moved the Chad part of it underneath the staples, both of them. Okay. And I pressed it flat again, and then I repressed it like this, and it has the Mark Jeweler insert in there.
Wow. Oh man.
So I didn't need a middle backing board because that sort of
acts as
its own.
Wow, it's a Mark Jewelers. Whoa, that's big.
Okay. And then because it's a July 1973 Mark Jewelers, it has the Menon insert on the inside front cover.
Nice.
So it is missing, as you can see here. See that little chip over there right behind the glider?
Mm-hmm.
See there? See that, missing that little chip there. But this thing was another wrinkly mess. Lots of creases, ragged, but at least it's presentable.
Oh yeah, it looks nice. It looks very nice.
And this back cover was super dirty. It's not super clean. This here, that there by the guy's hair there.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I couldn't get that out. I don't know what that is. I wouldn't get it out no matter how I tried.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a dirty mess back there. At least now it's mostly white,
Awesome.
So I'm very proud of those two. It took me a long time to work on those suckers. But I'm glad I paid, very little comparatively and was able to improve them to the degree that I was.
Great job. Yeah. Those are two big books. And this is why we do it, right? We don't want to see these beautiful books be all wrinkly and dirty, and we want to get them
because people will best. Yeah, exactly. People will, just ignore them, and this needed a good home and love, and now it is here. My ASM run goes from 101 through 400, but I was missing those two, and thanks to Boy Who Had 7, he gifted me a 129 some years back. So, now I have that complete run with the annuals and everything, and I've read through them, and just the joy that comes from going back to when I was a kid and remembering seeing these and seeing how Spider-Man's life progressed through it, losing Gwen, getting together with Mary Jane, graduating from high school finally and college, and it was just a wonder to read a long run like that, and the nostalgia that flows back into my mind from when I was a little tyke is priceless to me.
Yeah, I mean, I was too young during the I wasn't even born during the Romita senior run on Spider-Man, but as a fan, I went back and read those issues,
Right.
all the issues leading up to the death of Gwen Stacy, and man, were those some of the best. I mean, it's those are the prime sort of the peak Spider-Man stories in its long history. So great books to really improve. So yeah, again, thank you for coming on, and I think our time is up. But if you have any more like questions and stuff, leave them in the comments. And again, Roger and I are going to connect. However long this long process takes, I anticipate there's no time limit on it. It just will get done when it gets done. And then when we get the books back, we'll connect again. But if you have any questions in the meantime, leave them in the comments and let us know what you think. And again, thanks, Roger, for joining. Look forward to...
No, I'm not going to press my Hulk 181. No. My Hulk 181 is actually very high grade, so I don't need to press it. Thank God.
Yeah.
See, that something like that, Utaku, would make me very nervous.
Yeah. I was going to mention, there are probably books that you just are still afraid to maybe touch because you're not confident what,
touch,
with your skills
like,
and stuff.
Touch and light cleaning, that's no problem. Although it doesn't need it because there's really nothing wrong with it. But to press something, even though I'm 99.9% sure that I can do it correctly, still it's a little bit unnerving.
Yeah.
So no, I'm not going to be pressing my Hulk 181 at all. Unless it was, if it was ragged, I wouldn't have a problem doing it. But when if I'm trying to get, if mine, I don't know, mine's maybe like an 8.5. It's not great or nothing, right? It's maybe like an 8.5 or 9, right? To get it to a 9.2, no, that's not me.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. By the way, Otaku, I think if you get it to me this week, I can press it and get these things cleaned up and get it to you by next week. So.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Probably 10 days or so is all that's going to take for this to come back around.
Okay. Yeah. Again, I'll get them sent out this weekend, so you'll probably get them this next week. But again, no rush. Take as much time as you need. If you got things to do and whatever, you can. Don't feel like you have to get to them.
It's a good time because the end of next week, I have some work to do more earlier in the week, but at the end of next week, I don't have a whole lot to do. So I'm going to take probably a couple days to do the 4 and out they go.
Sounds good. All right. I'll get them out to you this weekend and I'll send you the tracking number once it's out.
Great.
All right. Thanks for joining. We'll see you in the next one.